Thank you guys for turning back into the power of your story. We have been on a little hiatus the last couple of weeks. A lot of you who have seen or know me and know my family know what we've gone through over the last couple of weeks. Well, Candy and I thought it was really important to really come to this episode with some things we want to share. Candy's dad passed away a couple of years ago, and obviously mine passed away a couple of weeks ago. So this is kind of going to be a special episode to kind of discuss um, basically their legacy, the things that we've learned from them, the things that we want to carry on and share with our grandkids and with our kids. So don't mind us if we have to pull one of these out. Candy just gave me. So let's just get right into it and let's discuss really the things that have shaped me from my dad and Candy and her wise ways to keep us on topic created this list, my very organized wife and how we do things. But I'll let her talk a little bit about, her dad as well when we get going on this. Let's just dive right into it.
All right. Yeah, just to give some context. So it has been a little over 2 years since my dad has passed. And as Tommy shared, it's just been a couple of weeks with my father in law. And we've also been going through this One Life to Live challenge with small groups and
1 month to live.
month. Yeah, one life to
Yeah,
live.
1 month to live.
1 month to
Yeah.
live. We only have one life. A 1 month to live challenge with some small groups and with our church. And it's timely. And it really had us thinking about
Yeah.
everything.
It hits a little bit differently when the wound is so fresh, thinking about 1 month to live and what you would do if you knew you had 1 month to live and how you would kind of be seen as, or how you would go to the people around you as. So yeah, it's a little fresh for me. Candy's got a couple of years head start, but nonetheless, it seems to be uncovering some things that we're really recognizing about our dads and what we've learned from them and how to share those with others. Let's just go on the questions that we wrote. If there's more you want to discuss.
No, I think it's great. We could start there. So, one of the questions that we wrote down was, when you think back in your life and you go back to your very first memory or feeling about your dad, what stood out to you?
That's a really tough question for me. I mean, I just read it and I started just to think about that question. And for me, it was really a lot later in life. It wasn't when I was a young kid. Me and my dad's relationship was really different, and no fault of his own. He just was raised a different way. It seems to be in our culture that things were just a little bit tougher on them, so they didn't know how to express themselves as much. So for me, it was a little bit different. I mean, my fondest and earliest memories of him were from really when I was in my 30s, him just being at places, at sports events that I played and just hanging around me. The biggest memories, I guess I could really start recalling that stuff when I was in my 20s and all the things that he did to bail me out of my problems and stuff. But what about you? What about your fondest or first memories?
First memories. So I wrote about this as I'm writing my book right now, but my first memory of my dad was he hitchhiked to California to pick me up. So I was living with my mom and my grandma at the time in California, and he hitchhiked. I don't know how many cars it took for him to get there with a sack of his clothes on his back. And my first memory was him coming down the street. And my dad had this long beard back then.
Hmm.
And he has this bag over his back, and he looked like Santa Claus to me coming down the street. But I saw him walking, and I remember that image so vividly, like him walking down the street to get me.
Hmm.
And it was at a time when my mom was an addict and she was having problems, and he knew he had to come get me. And he did whatever it took to come and pick me up and take me home with him back to Michigan.
And when we start to think of a dad, a father, and Candy and I's faith has really grown over the last few years. And you start to look at that in a spiritual context of you need to be rescued from things in your life that are going on that you really have no control over. And your dad was the man basically coming through the clouds to come rescue you and take care of you. And there's so much we could really pull from that in a faith way, that as many struggles and trials that we go through in our lives, and we try to rely on our own thoughts and our own ways to get out of it. But God is really just a SOS call away to come help and to have the faith to do that. So that's a really cool visual I'm getting of seeing your dad coming through to take care of you, and watching Jesus be the same way for us.
It's pretty powerful.
It is. There's so many different things with our dads, and, the different lives her dad lived and my dad lived. I think there were, 10-year age gap between them both, somewhere in that ballpark, um, culturally and differently. But just looking at them when we were together is just how they just connected with each other. And, you know, you guys, some of you may know how cool my dad was. Is he would smile and he'd talk to anybody, and he was always around and was always there to make you feel comfortable. Her dad was the same way. I mean, I love the man. He was a great guy. He was always good to me.
I think about both of them, and they smiled all the time. My dad loved cartoons.
Oh,
He
That is
loved
what came to my
I
mind
know.
just now.
He loved cartoons. He was a kid at heart. He was serious and had a crazy work ethic, which is what I one of the things amongst many that I got from him. But he loved life, and like he loved to have fun, and he would just remind me, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. Just have fun.
He would go to the movies on his own to watch on his own to watch these cartoon movies. Who at those ages would do that? It's just so funny to imagine him walking into a movie theater to watch, The Lion King or something like that.
Yeah. He would leave me voicemails when he'd call, and then he'd go, yippee! As silly as it sounded, I loved hearing that. Like,
Yeah.
woohoo, yippee! And just that like zest and joy for life. And then I think about your dad, and I just think about he just always smiled, and he was always like soft spoken. He's not loud like you, but soft spoken. But just he was always like around people, welcoming them in, and like arms open wide for them.
He did. He never had a bad word to say about anybody. He never did. He was always, always. I mean, when we go out to breakfast, my dad was loved to go to breakfast. He loved to go out to eat. But I think he only did it. He didn't care really for the food. He just wanted to be around people. And that was his thing. He just loved to be around people, shake hands. I mean, my friends always say that to me. It's basically the whole shake hands, kissing babies, like he was running for office. But he knew everybody, and everyone that I know of really respected him because he was just that kind soul and would support anybody and anything. So just looking back now, there's so many memories of what he has shared or done that there's just so many to name. So we're just going to pull out a few of them. But the gist of this episode, I think for both of us, is to kind of release some of this. Well, for me, it's to really kind of keep his legacy going, I guess, in my heart and with my family and with my kids and my grandkids. And I just want to continue to be the smile, the face of support for my kids and my grandkids.
Yeah.
In a good way. I mean, let's be real. My dad was going to be 88 years old. I heard him say many times, he's lived a great life. He's got all these kids and these grandkids, and he was just happy to grow old enough to see all of us, grow and become who we are and learning to get better. So I don't want it to be so much somber. It's obviously a little bit, fresh. So it is, but there's so many cool things to remember about him and your dad as well.
What were some cool things that your dad did? Like, as you think about when he was either growing up or things that he did with you, what are some things that were unique to him that other people wouldn't know, like that you can share? I think about what he was growing up, right?
Well, when he was growing up, my dad was Hispanic, so they were pickers. So they traveled all over, and, he was the baby of the bunch. So he was the youngest out of, I guess, would be 11 kids, 10 brothers, one sister, to my understanding. But they just went from town to town picking fields and experiencing the rough, really hard way of living. But then as he got older, he worked at the shop. But maybe what some people would know is my dad used to own a pool hall in Pontiac. He worked there, and the guy told him before he went into the service, wanted to know if he wanted to buy the pool hall. And my dad was like, well, I can't, I'm going in the military. The guy stood around or stayed with his pool hall for a couple of years until my dad got out. And when he got out, he sold the pool hall to my dad, which was cool. And if you guys, I mean, you don't know this, but my dad was a pool shark. He could play pool really, really well, you know, and he'd tell you about it too. If he's playing you and he's, you know, and you're trying to win, he will definitely say like, okay, miss one shot and I'm going to beat you. And he normally would. So that's one of the things I just remembered about him like that.
It's so fun to think about the life that they lived. My dad was went in the military, so he was a veteran and he fought in the war, and so he had medals of honor, and he was blown up out of a tank, and I didn't even realize that until after he passed. And I got all of the pictures because he didn't talk about it a lot. It was really hard. So there was like that part of his life. And then my dad was a hippie, and he traveled around in the van and did all the hippie things in the 70s. And I have so many like funny pictures from that. And he was a boxer, and he was a race car driver, and then he worked at the shop for years. So I'm like, what crazy life experience he had.
A medley of life that he had,
Yeah.
all those things. That's great. Let's talk about the second question because I do like that. What did your dad teach you about life, faith, and family that shapes us who we are today? I know we've got 8 of them, so we're just going to pull.
A few.
Yeah, well, I can name one for you.
Life, faith, and family. At the end, he loved traditions. He loved them. We passed them on. He loved me with his whole heart. Like, and emotional. He was like, show up, like, be there for your family. You keep traditions. It's so important. So much so that at Christmas time, we always get together. And when he was here, and he wrote out the 12 days of Christmas, but he wrote them out on index cards, which I love that we still have. But we were doing these funny like things with each day. And so 12 of us in the family would take different parts. And he was like, don't stop doing that. And the first year after he passed, it was so hard to do it. And I cried through it and laughed through it. But it's things like that. So I would say he passed on traditions and the importance of being with your family and loyalty, which are so important.
Yeah. It's passed on. I mean, just Lily, for instance, she is totally about traditions and family and stuff. I think with Amanda, I mean, it's just a cool thing that those are the things that he's passed down. Because now it's we do those things still. We make sure we're still together and we still do, you know, spend time together on those holidays and things like that. I think my dad's faith, he was like married to his church. Like he did not like to miss Sundays. Like for him, it was just like work. You know, he got up in the morning, he got excited. And, you know, I just recall what the priest was saying during his funeral, or that part of the service, is that he would come, walk in and do all of his stuff and get it done. And that basket that he had, that was his role. He was always wanting to help and make sure that everybody was taken care of when he got in there. But besides that part of it, I would ask him like, you know, what'd you do last night? He's like, oh, well, no, I went and did something, but had to come home. You know, before I went to bed, I had to say my prayers. And he did that every single night without fail. And his mom really impressed on him, his faith, but he was so consistent with it all. And it was, it's something that I still hold true, that you could always count on him doing his prayers at night and, you know, making sure that he was there on Sundays for church.
I think there's so many values that we get that are passed down from our dads, right? I think you took faith. I take loyalty, family from my dad, but I think it's also, I got hard work. My dad was a hard worker, and he believed in the mentality of work hard, play hard. And so it was one of those things that he carried over with me. It's just, you got to work hard in life. You can't just expect things to be handed to you. You have to work for them. And that was a value he passed down for me. What's another one?
That shows to you. For me, it's family. I mean, making sure that you're you're with your family and being there. Just growing up with our family, and at the times that I can remember, there were only 4 other brothers that I can recall and his sister. But for no apparent reason, we'd get all the brothers and all the cousins, and we'd just go hang out at one of their houses. And mind you, there's probably 60, 70 of us in our immediate family, or maybe a little less, but roughly. And it was consistent. We were always together. And he just really loved that aspect of being with his brothers and sister and just breaking bread together. We had meals, obviously, in our culture. That's what we did. We sat and ate together and hung out together. And that is one thing that really is something I can't allow to let go. That would be rough. That would be a hard thing to let that slide away because he loved it so much. He loved seeing everybody and the kids and the grandkids. So we'll continue that tradition.
Family. And for my dad, it was the family and traditions and hard work. Anything else that you thought was like a cool value or belief that was passed on?
Just to be there for people, I think. My dad supported everybody. If there was something going on, I mean, I had posted something and somebody said she had cancer several years back, and my dad just showed up, was there for her, supported her. You know, if she needed anything, he was there. And that to me is probably the biggest thing is he would just be there for people. He would just show up. Yeah. Is there something were you thinking something different?
No,
No.
I definitely remember all of that. I mean, those are things that stand out to me about your dad.
Just his funeral. I mean, the thing I said at his funeral is, I think the thing he would have been most jealous about was there were so many people at his funeral that he always went to funerals and he always just wanted to comfort people. He wanted to shake their hand. He wanted to smile with them, be there for them. That would have thing he would have been the most jealous of because a lot of his friends are there and he enjoyed that. Yeah.
I think the other one that stands out with me with my dad is just his heart for just giving things to people. I remember he started the tradition for years where he didn't want any Christmas presents, right? As you get older, you don't want anything, but he's like, "Can you bring me teddy bears? We need to give them to the kids so we can give them to the police and the firefighters." And that just that heart to give to other people, and that was something that's been passed on. It's just that giving back, being that is just fundamentally part of who I am, and one I'm hoping to make sure in my legacy and our legacy that we continue to pass down through generations,
And to
right?
give back. I do remember that. I remember him wanting the teddy bears and stuff.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. He didn't believe in buying too much. He was very simple. I think your dad was simple
My dad
too.
was real simple.
Right, it's not about the material things, but it's just about people. It's about your family. It's about faith. It's these things that you need in life because the other stuff just doesn't.
If there's anything you guys get out of this, and I think you're probably hearing it in the tones of our dads and us, is we have to just make sure we build our relationships with our families. It's so important to continue to grow those relationships because that's what it's all about. I mean, like she said, obviously we need money but things are just so unimportant when it comes to this type of stuff.
It's just our blood families, but it's our friendships. It's the relationships that are so important. They had personal relationships with people. They didn't randomly just ignore people.
No.
They were there. They showed up for them. They called them on the phone. They talked to them, and they just were not judgmental people. Neither one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. You and I were talking about it. I think we live in a time that's quick to react and quick to judge. And there's a few questions that just came to my mind recently as I think about just if I ever get like annoyed with someone, right? If I'm thinking about my dad and his legacy, can I start asking myself, do I need to share this information with someone? And if so, does it need to be said right now? And what's the heart behind telling them?
Yeah.
And I think we need to keep that in mind. Relationships and family are so important. And so if we're upset, that's natural. But let's start questioning our why for sharing it or posting it or whatever that might be, because gosh, if we go back to the simple things and just people matter, we would check our words.
Yeah. Sometimes we're quick to judge, quick to
Mm.
spout off, and maybe we do need to take that little Selah moment. I learned that word. Thank you, Pastor. Just take a moment,
Pause.
take a little pause before you react. I mean, that's just words to live by is
Mm.
before reacting, just take a little pause and reflect on the
Mm.
purpose of what you're doing.
One last question.
One
What do
last
we have?
question.
One last one, and then
Well, there's so many. Yes, I'm blind. All right. How has walking through his loss deepened your understanding of legacy and gratitude? I think we've talked a little bit about it.
say walking through the loss for me um is it's still daily and part of my life. But out of all of the people that have passed in my life and I've had a lot of loss, my dad's rocked my world. It rocked my world. It changed me. It changed me for the better. I've learned to appreciate life and slow down and simplify things. And it just made me just appreciate life more. We have a huge, huge hole that's there. I mean, my dad was my everything, right? And so it's a huge, huge hole in my life, but I feel like I'm filling where I can with value
Yeah.
and intentional time
Mhm.
and building my relationship with God and with my family, with my friends and the people around me. So I guess that's what I've learned through walking the steps. And it's been a couple of years and yours is so fresh.
And it's uncovered some things with you again. So it's kind of crept back because of that. And the other thing is, we've talked about this. I've got 4 older sisters and I got a younger brother, and this is a loss that obviously wrecked us. And I want to make sure if they watch this that there is no timetable to grieve. There is no rush to do things to put some closure on stuff. This is going to be a journey,
Hmm.
reflecting on lots of things. I mean, this past Friday, for some reason, I don't know why, it was just one of those days where from the moment I woke up, I had tears in my eyes till at night I came home and I was still emotional. And I just started to think about, like, I'm just going to live in it. I'm just going to experience it. I'm not going to look in the mirror and say, what is wrong with you? And what are you doing? You've got stuff you got to get done. I was able to still function that day, but in the interim, while I was driving around and working, I just let the emotion run.
Yeah. I think if I was to share with anybody that might be going through grief, is you've got to feel it. You can't mask it. You can't run from it. Right? And you're going to deal with it differently. Like I dealt with it differently than how you're dealing with it, or other people did. Insert God in every
Yeah.
aspect of it, and he was my hope and my peace, and I cried and I yelled, and I could take my frustrations and my hurts and everything to him, but just try not to mask it with things of the world,
Hmm.
because all you're doing is pushing off the inevitable
Yeah.
of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to feel good, but you got to go through it.
Unfortunately, the stages of grief are going to happen regardless if you want them to happen or not.
Listen,
No,
we're not.
I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we've experienced it. And just as your faith, you can't take somebody else's words and somebody else's advice. You just have to have that experience of and the journey of going through those things. So while we may not be those things, we have a story to tell, and that story is true and real because we've experienced it. And it's not easy. It's going to be difficult, but with the way Candy and I have been going and really focusing on our faith and really focusing on God leading us and directing us into the path and the ways that He wants us to go, we're kind of just giving Him carte blanche, basically, to say, hey, at this point, with everything that has gone on in our lives and the mistakes and things that we've made and have gone through, we have really made it a point to get really engaged with our church community and with the people around us, with our small groups that we're a part of. And we've really just filled our lives to, so what Candy was saying is we've really filled our lives with the spiritual, the godly things. And we've basically pushed away the things of the world and what normally would have happened to us maybe, as early as 4 or 5 years ago. We're doing things differently. Yeah.
So if we bring it to a close, what do we want people to remember? Anything, literally one or two things we've shared our memories, our values changes as a result of them,
Hmm.
what would we ask them to think about?
You who are watching are going to leave a legacy. You are going to leave an impression upon the people who are around you, your kids, your grandkids. You are going to be known for something. You are going to, when you pass or when you go, people are going to say that guy was or that lady was. And what are you hanging your hat on? I can speak really clearly for Candy and I, as through all the stuff that we've gone through and all of our struggles through life, we have come to a point where really just we're giving it to God, and we're going to serve to the best of our ability. And that is the legacy that I want to leave to my grandsons, who knows, granddaughter in the day. But right now, I want them to see a man who has changed, who has pretty much has put God in the center of his life and is doing things to get people to come to God in a way that maybe they thought they never could either. I want my kids to be proud of me for who I am, and my grandsons to look up to me as a role model and a leader.
And for me, I've kept this in front of me for a long time, but I want to create a legacy of impact. And it's positive impact, not for me, but it's a positive impact for God. And I'm hoping as people experience me and are around me, they see an encourager, they see a light, they see someone that is showing what God's done in their life. I'm not beating myself up for all the mistakes in the past, because that is what's shaped me. And I don't go back to go, I should have done that or shouldn't have done that. If that's what's made me me, I just want to encourage people going forward. I want them to have a positive impact on others.
I think I've said this in the last episode, but some years back, I created in my head, I just had these words continue to come over me when I was going through my issues. And those words were to love, to listen, and to encourage others. And it really is something now after my dad's passing is what I'm even stepping into more. And I really want to live those three words, starting with love, not only God, but love my neighbors, love the people around me, regardless of how they are. And if they have something to say, I want to listen to them. And lastly, just encourage them to seek God and do the best that they can and know that they have us here to be there for them and support them. So we thank you guys for tuning in to this episode about our fathers and the legacy that we hope to leave with our families through them. So thanks again, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.